Welcome to Belief Busters Podcast, where we change the world one belief at a time. True transformation happens when we question if the beliefs we hold are of truth, or simply someone else's belief that we have internalized as our own. I'm your host, Rev. Cherie Taylor-Jones, and I'm glad you could join us on the journey. Today, it's really exciting. We've got Dr. Krishna Bhatta with us, and he's going to be talking to us about intermittent meditation. And I'm excited to see how this can add to our own meditative practices, perhaps having a clearer understanding, maybe looking at what we believe about meditation and how it should be, and then kind of deconstructing a little bit and giving us some clarity and just permission to be in the flow of meditation. Dr. Bhatta, I'm really glad that you're here with us. And why don't you just introduce yourself and say a little bit about you?
So, Reverend Shiri, thanks very much for having me on your show. And it's great honor to be here. I have a journey, two separate journeys, or two parallel journeys. One is for meditation and the other is for medicine. And I've been, as long as I have practiced meditation, I have practiced medicine. So it has been as equally long distance journey. I've met quite a lot of people or mentors in medicine. And similarly, I've met a lot of mentors and saints in meditation field and spirituality field. One of my passion, I love, whenever I visit any spiritual place, whether it is a temple or a church or whatever, it is, I'll sit down and meditate because I think the vibrations around that area is so amazing and tuned for that thing.
Nice. It's so unusual to hear someone who is in the science of medicine as well as being a spiritual being in a meditative sense. How were you able to, really bring those both together?
Because I still think that both are science.
Say a little bit more. I agree with you. I agree with you, Krishna. Say a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, it is in the medical world, you go to, do an experiment in a room, right?
Yes.
In meditation work, you do the same thing, but you do by experience. Mm-hmm. So it's experiments versus experience. And I don't, I love your title, Belief Busters.
Yes.
So I don't do anything because I believe in it. I want to experience. If there is a God, I want to know him. I want to find him. I want to not just believe. I mean, belief is a good starting point.
Yes.
In geometry, we say, suppose ABC is a triangle, and then we go and prove that it's a triangle. So, so it's very similar. I think anything that is a belief, it means that science hasn't come to know it yet.
Science hasn't come to know it yet. That's juicy. That's pretty profound. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, once science knows, then it's no more belief, right?
Yes.
Earth is flat or round. We don't question that now.
Right, because it's been proven.
Because science knows,
Yeah. So if you would just tell us, what is intermittent meditation? Let's start there.
So the term, it's a term I coined and kind of, took it out of my experience from meditation and call it intermittent silence, actually. Okay. So there are three different terminologies that anybody on journey in meditation or spiritual experiences goes through. One is I call intermittent silence, and then there is mindfulness, and then there is meditation. Suppose you go on a journey, like if I have to fly to California and visit you. Mm-hmm. California is a big place. It's not a small place. So similarly, right, when somebody says meditation, it's like going to a big area. But doesn't matter which area of California, I will need shoes, I will need socks, I will need, what I wear and dress.
Yes.
And if I go to a cold place, if you come to Maine, you will have winter gear.
Ooh, lots of winter gear.
But the whole point is that intermittent silence is something like basic things you need for any spiritual experiencing that you want to do.
Okay.
So I have taken the essential elements out and packaged it in a way that it's complete in itself, but it's a powerful package. But if you want to go something deeper experience into meditation, then you will need these four things that go with the intermittent silence.
So what you're
So
talking about is creating a foundation that
if
no matter what area of meditation we go into, this is our starting point. This is our
this,
reference.
this is your reference, you will need to have these things. So there are four steps of intermittent silence, or four elements of intermittent silence. And let me go one by one, and then you will see the value of it. So
Please.
first one is close your mouth. It sounds so simple, but by closing your mouth, you are closing all kind of communication, all kind of expressions. You are without words for those 10 minutes. And all the area in the brain that is busy doing that expression, communication, and wording, they get rested. So at least you get is 10 minutes of rest of that area.
Okay.
Then you close your eyes. And with closing your eyes, all your visual pathway of the brain is gets rest, but also everything that is related to observation outside gets rested.
Yes.
The third one is silent listening. So you're not in a soundless world, or we are not. So sound will be there. So you can just let the sound come and pass through. I was talking to somebody recently who practiced this meditation this morning, and he says he was in the house, and he says that when I was doing it, I didn't know these sounds existed in my house. all, all, all the clickings, and
Yes.
the air conditioner and everything, and he enjoyed it. I mean, he was not saying it in a bad way, but he said, look, I never pay attention to those sounds. You become a great listener if you do this. And the last one is watching your thoughts pass by, not getting attached to it, not giving it any energy. But if a thought hijacks you, that's okay. Once you realize it, come back to watching it. So these four simple steps, and doesn't matter which meditation you do, you have to watch your thoughts. But then look at it again. By closing your mouth and not having communication outside, if you decided to make this an exercise, internal exercise, you can create a whole inner theater where you can create images. I can have Reverend Sherry there, and I can do the podcast before I do the podcast,
Yes.
in real. So
Yes. Visualize.
I can have the whole exercise, positive thinking, positive imaging, and I can control everything. I don't have to create obstacles. I can have a flawless one. Often did that by practicing my surgeries before I did the surgery, big
Yes.
surgeries. I went through their steps. And many people do this in some ways, they present their rehearse in their mind. But I'm creating a structure where it is easier to do.
I like the connection with when we close our mouth, we are giving that area in our brain that does the communication time to rest. I
Right.
like that correlation. I don't think that we normally think of it in that way.
But yeah, we think more, as to what we get. We get peace, we get, relaxation. We don't think we are relaxing, giving our brain a rest, but it's true, right? I mean, if you're not using it for 10 minutes, those cells will thank you.
Yes. Yes. How about that? Our cells will thank us. And so I love that because what it does is it creates exactly who you are within us, the awareness of that there's spiritual and there's physical, and the science of how the mind operates, that when we do this meditation, it's affecting all of those areas. It's just not a spiritual practice, although that's a powerful thing in itself, but it's also giving that area of our brain rest. When we close our eyes, giving that area of the brain that does the observation and making the equations of what are those things, right?
Right.
Giving all of that a rest as well. I think that's quite powerful. And the piece of where you talk about the thoughts going through and just being able to watch them. I know for many of our listeners, that's the piece that they really struggle with, is having the thoughts when they are meditating. And there seems to be this type of struggle. And what you're saying is the antithesis of that. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, let it just pass through. But I think people know that whoever does meditation, they always are told to do this, like passing cars on the road and you are just watching it.
Right.
But when the thought comes and hijacks them, then they start beating themselves. Oh, come on, I'm not doing it right.
Yes.
But that's part of the whole thing. Yeah, some thoughts will hijack you, but that's okay. Once you recognize, come back to watching. The whole idea is to be in that space just by practice. Yes, there will be less hijacks. One of the things with meditation, or I suppose in life in general, if you have one experience, next time you go, you want the same experience, but it doesn't happen.
True. It does not happen. That's correct. Did you
So,
hear that, listeners? There's a belief to bust that once we have this, maybe a deep, wonderful spiritual awakening or just that calmness, that the expectation is that we have it every time. That's a false belief.
yeah. And that the belief busting they need to hear, right?
Yes. Yeah.
In a way, you are going to the source, because when you go inside you, that's where all the strength and all the productivity, all the creativity comes from, right?
Right.
So, intermittent silence is a journey to the source. But once you go to the source, you find the force.
Ooh, say more.
All the creativity happens from some energy, right,
Yep.
inside you.
Yep.
So that's what I call, the fourth one, where we are watching the thoughts. Now you convert that into inner conversation. So we all have inner conversations. Now you can go into this space and find the answer. You do the 10 minutes of intermittent silence, which is in my app. There is a 1 minute of guidance, 10 minutes of silence, and there is a music at the end.
Okay. What's your app called? Krishna?
Relax with 2x.
Relax. Okay.
So RELAXX. So there is 2x there.
Okay.
And it is available on relax.org, again with 2x. So it has a technique about intermittent silence. Things come from inside. So that's one kind of inner conversation. The second inner conversation is you can take one thought and do the brainstorming during that period.
Okay. So you're in that quiet space and you have a thought about a problem or looking for a solution for something.
Yeah. And you will be thinking anyway, sitting in the room watching TV, but why not find a quieter space inside you,
Yes.
and then have that inner conversation? As I said, you go to the source, then you find that force, like the force be with you, Star Wars,
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but there is a force, there is energy there.
That there is something within us that connects to our divine nature within.
Right.
And
So I'm taking you to that source through intermittent silence.
right.
And then you find the force and use it.
Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know?
They start with this 10 minutes practice, and I suggest they do same time, same place, because then it becomes a whole package. And somehow, after some time, the space, the body waits for it. It's like,
You're giving your body permission to get into a routine that this is part of normal living.
right. Yeah.
So for our listeners, We have some techniques and tips that you can use and integrate into your practice, or just kind of tweak it a little bit and try this out and see if adds to what you're already doing. What I really love about this conversation is that we looked at what our expectations can be sometimes around meditation. We may have expectations that we'll find peace or nirvana, and it's going to be different every time, and to give ourselves permission to just allow it to be however it is perfect. I like that. Thank you so much for joining us on Belief Busters, Dr. Krishna. If you are enjoying these conversations about assessing your belief systems and how to transform outdated beliefs, then please subscribe and give us a positive review. To support this podcast and its transformative work, you can also become a sponsor for as little as $5 a month. You can reach Rev Cherie at info@beliefbusterspodcast.org. To continue on this journey of evolution, you can also get my book, Turning Your Why into Why Not, at Amazon or any other bookstores, which gives you practical tools to do this work. See you next time on the flip side.